everybody. I hope you guys have had an amazing new year. This is the very first day of 2025. I had a pretty good New Year's myself, so I'm really looking forward to 2025. I hope everybody has a blessed and absolutely prosperous 2025. I did want to go ahead to film my video for my third installment of Unhinged Newspaper Stories of the Past. I actually had something filmed previously. The only issue is that, one, the camera kept zooming kind of in and out in a weird, like it felt like it was blurring, and I realized that I didn't really care for a lot of the stories that I shared. So I basically went ahead to do research again, just looking into the newspaper archives, and I was able to find really great stories. So basically today, all of the stories that I'm going to be reading appeared on the Seattle Star, on their issue dated January 1st of 1925. So again, it's January 1st of 2025. So all of these stories were the very first stories as appeared on the very first edition of the Seattle Star 100 years ago today, or 100 years ago this week. So these are just some of the unhinged stories that I wanted to share. A lot of them I just find very interesting, but I'm gonna start the very first one with San Francisco is gay in festivity. So this one is funny to me for several reasons. So yeah. Okay, so San Francisco. One, it's San Francisco, so yeah. San Francisco, January 1st. San Francisco hailed the new year with usual zest last night. The festivities being lubricated by plenty of stimulants. Cafes and downtown streets were packed from 10 p.m. yesterday until the small hours this morning, and when some folks were coming to work, many others were just going home. There was much traffic on Market Street at 4 a.m. as there usually is at 4 p.m. Plenty of liquor was flowing, but as usual, police declared that the night was the most orderly in years. They said the same last year and the year before that. Few arrests were made. Okay, so that's just a funny one. One, it says it's gay in festivity, but it's also San Francisco. And I'm so sorry, the immature part of me about the lubricant and plenty of stimulants, and then it also being a zesty night, is hilarious. And I love how they're like, the police said it was an orderly night, but they say that every year. Yeah, just thought that was a really funny one to start out. So San Francisco is gay in festivity. So yeah, that's the first story. All right, so on to our second story from the Seattle Star. So one thing I learned just looking at the Seattle Star, that this particular from January 1st of 1925, is that in this country, we've always done the most with bringing in the new year. So there is a lot going on in this paper with sort of the stuff we're used to seeing in the news today, with people just doing the most for the new year and ringing it in with just being extra. So this second story is called 3 Shot in New Year's Parties. This is in Detroit. 2 fatally wounded in Michigan celebrations. It says Detroit. Okay, so yeah. So January 1st, 3 persons were shot, 2 fatally, in New Year's revelries in Michigan early today. Emma Jean Campbell, 17, died a few minutes after being shot by Joseph Etienne, soldier stationed at Solfridge Field, Mount Clemens. Ryan turned the revolver on himself a moment later, and doctors feared his wounds would prove fatal. The shooting resulted from a quarrel at a New Year's party, police said. Police here found the bullet-riddled body of Adolph Bonney, 21, in a house after a New Year's party early today. Charles J. Corby, 52, in the house when Bonney's body was discovered, was arrested and is being held for investigation. He refused to tell of the circumstances of Bonney's death. So you kind of have 2 incidents here. One, it looks like Imogen, who's 17, was shot at a party by Ryan, who is a soldier. And then another one, it seems like basically it appears that Charles Corby, who's 52, shot to death Adolph Bonney, who's 21, after his body was discovered at his home. And it says Michigan New Year celebrations. I'm not exactly sure what was going on, but there's a lot more of this, trust me, in this paper, and I'll share maybe a couple more of those stories. So yeah, and that was Detroit. So this next story is kind of us going into more New Year's Eve, New Year's celebration shenanigans. So this one is called Hospital Treats 15. It doesn't have the city, so I'm assuming this one was in Seattle, but it's street fighting and minor accidents feature Happy New Year. 15 men and women were injured in street fighting, and union accidents. Oh God, let me see what that says. Okay. 15 men and women were injured in street fighting and minor accidents during the downtown celebration New Year's Eve before and after midnight. The city hospital records show the following casualties. Mudarak McPherson, 46, alcoholic poisoning. Chris Johnson, 42, hit on the head and bruised. Alfred Falis, 20, soldier, head injured when an auto bounced him against its roof. Now, I will say this just kind of goes into the people who were treated and how, like, the different injuries they had, so I don't want to read through all of it. But it's basically, I guess they were having street fighting and minor accidents to celebrate the new year. And again, I'm assuming this is Seattle. But yeah, that's just... it's just another way that people are ringing in the year completely and totally unhinged. I'm not exactly sure why street fighting would be a way you want to bring in the new year, but hey, again, you know, this is America, so. All right, so this third one, or I think we're on our fourth now. Wounded in Cabaret, Negros shoots former lover at New Year celebration here. Negros is kind of crazy, but this is just that's this altercation. So ending a New Year celebration last night, Nina Smith, 28, Negros, early Thursday morning, shot and seriously wounded Ad Smith. And they kind of give his address, a Negro in the Alaham Cabaret. Smith told the police that the woman had been his lover, but that he had left her a month ago, and she had been very jealous. He was in the cabaret, he said, when she walked in, fired 3 times at him and fled. He was taken to the city hospital with a bullet in his side, and the woman was arrested a few blocks away and is being held. So again, New York shenanigans. Negros is kind of crazy, but again, this is 1925, but just some more New Year's shenanigans. She shot him at a New Year's celebration here, and I'm assuming this is Seattle as well. So again, just being extra, but that is my fourth unhinged story today. All right, so this one here, it says this is like the 5 most popular words last night. It's like 5 most popular words, but it does list like a bunch of other, I guess, phrases or sayings for the new year. So this one starts with, now dear, you've had enough. I'm assuming that is an alcohol reference. New Year Eve parties were like the Argonne. You never knew when your life would be snuffed out by a shot. True today, true 100 years ago, apparently. So song for New Year's morning. Now is the time for some good man to come to the aid of the party. Okay. By this time, everybody and the resolutions are broke. I just thought that was very interesting to share. I'm not exactly sure, but it's just reading through this paper, the new year sounded way too familiar, which made it so freaking hilarious to me. Okay, so this last one that I want to share was the most fascinating one that I was able to find on the Seattle Star that day. And there's a reason that I'm going to get into. But I will say there was like a high optimism for the new year. So a lot of the stories that I read were like, 1925 is gonna be your year, it's gonna be your best year. That's like something that we always do. But I wanted to read this one. I'm just gonna read like the first part of it, but trust me, this is amazing. So let me get into this. Okay, so hail to 1925, best year of this old world. So the main thing to remember today is this: the best year the world has ever seen, and it has seen millions of them, starts now. Let the old folks talk about the good old times and smile. Let them tell you how much better things were in 73 and smile. Let them argue with you that the younger generation was more moral in 51 and smile. Let them tell you that the folks in 62 were better hearted and more honest and smile. Old folks have been like that since hairy men lived in the swamps and killed dinosaurs with clubs. Don't be angry with them. Retrospection is the privilege of old age. Looking ahead is the right of the youth. You're looking ahead now into the world's banner year. By and large, all the world over, people will be happier in 1925 than ever before for millions of years. Now, I'm gonna stop there. I will have the whole story here anyway if you kind of want to read the whole thing like I did. But the best thing about this story is 2 things. One, 1925 is 100 years ago. So I find it hilarious, kind of like the optimism for it, I guess, because we kind of associate, I mean, I guess it's another era. We associate that era with a lot of different things. But the fact that they are saying things like old people are telling you how much better things were in 73 or 51 or 62, is so funny because they are not referring to the 1970s, 60s, or 50s. They are full-blown referring to 1873, 1851, and 1862. And that is the most hilarious thing about this whole story. That is what actually immediately caught my eye, and I was like, that is the most hilarious thing about time. The old people of 1925 were hearkening about the 70s, the 60s, and the 50s of the 1800s. And now, of course, 1925 is 100 years ago. So our old people today, most of them weren't even alive at the time. But yeah, I just wanted to share that part. I thought that was the most hilarious thing. And I thought this was actually the most interesting story of all of them, just because of the fact that they were saying things like 73, 51, and 62, ways that we refer to the past in our time, but they're full-blown referring to the 1800s, of course, because 1973, 1951, and 1962 had not even happened yet, and we're still several decades away. But yeah, that just was one that I really, really wanted to share. It immediately caught my eye, and I thought it was probably one of the most interesting things I've read. It's not unhinged, but it's just really, really, it's a perspective. It really puts time into perspective. Okay, so yeah, those were just some of the stories that I wanted to share from the Seattle Star. Again, all of those stories, that issue was dated January 1st of 1925, 100 years ago today. The same New Year's festivities, shenanigans, everything we'll expect today. The fact that there was that quote about going to a New Year's party, you're afraid that you might get shot and snuffed out is really crazy, because I was actually fully at a New Year's celebration with some friends yesterday. And there was a guy who came in with like this big coat, and like one of my friends kind of made this joke like, oh, what if he like pulls something out? I think it's sad, but I think there's just a part of that that's kind of just American culture. I don't even know. Yeah, just street fights, people getting shot at parties, people doing way too much. There were like some other stories that I screenshot as well, but obviously I couldn't fit everything into this video. But then of course, just that final story there with old folks having nostalgia and reminiscing about the past. It's just that funny thing of like, yeah, in 1925, you had an entirely different generation of old people that were reminiscing about the 70s, the 1870s, that is just so funny. That's so crazy to me. But yeah, I hope everyone had a wonderful New Year celebration. I hope you guys have had a wonderful 2025 so far. 2024 was a pretty cool, interesting year for me. I was able to get I guess a lot done. I have my own goals and hopes for 2025. Part of it being really focusing and really pushing for this YouTube channel. But yeah, I hope you guys, your goals, everything you have planned for 2025 comes to fruition as well. Of course, just keep your mind to it and work on your discipline, which is something I try to tell myself every day. But yeah, Happy New Year to every single one of you. And I hope you guys all have an amazing, and as I said, blessed 2025. Thank you so much.